Previously on the Mister.
Don't worry, Alessia. You can trust me. I'll keep you safe from those monstrous thugs. They won't find you at my house way out in the countryside.
Thank you, Mister.
Here we go again. Our hungry fox has successfully lured his naive little hen into the safety of his burrow. Chapter 10 picks up with our plucky duo cruising around in Maxim's posh-ass Jaguar. He calls an attendant of his to make arrangements at one of his estates, unironically nicknamed The Hideout. He requests for 2 rooms to be ready, but in his mind he had hoped for 1. I know sex traffickers are hunting her down, but if she's caught, chances are she'd be sold to someone with money. And I have money, so I can just cut out the middleman and claim her for myself and save money. Maxim's having the internal dilemma of wanting to keep her safe from the hands of those monsters, all the while restraining his own predatory desires. Woe is him. The sheer lack of self-awareness is so palpable it belongs on r/whoosh. Yet, I want to ask her what she's endured, what she's seen, but now is not the right time. All my plans, all my fantasies will be for nothing if she can't bear to be with a man. Any man. And I realize that I can't touch her. I realize that I can't touch her becomes his solemn vow. Remember that. We shift to Alessia, and I do the accustomed ding here, but I'm retiring the perspective shift gag. I'm pretty sure we all get the point by now that this book bounces between perspectives like it's playing Pong against itself. Alessia questions if jumping into the car of this acquaintance was really such a good idea, and where the heckity heck is he even taking her? Oh, just anxiety all around. Ahem. But Alessia is so stoic and brave. She works hard to keep herself safe. That's what I hope comes across within this book. Something tells me I'm going to be referring to this interview passage a lot. And, if she really did work hard to keep herself safe, she'd consider the good old tuck and roll option. Just saying. They stop specifically at the Gordano Services on the M5 just after 10 p.m. for food. Alessia feels paranoid and clings to Maxim, to his delight and surprise. She reveals that she escaped at a similar station with other girls. Maxim comforts her and she signals that she wants to be kissed. He then remembers his earlier characterization and requests permission. Maxim plants a chaste peck on her lips, to which she moans. The responsive dick twiggle reminds him of that vow he made not 10 minutes ago. It's rather odd to me that Maxim finds it easier to pull away and claim the moral ground when she's the one trying to push the boundary. Well, she was the one coming on to me, officer! They're inside the service station. They go pee and then they come out and order food at a Starbucks. James is sure to inform us, through Alessia's point of view, that the barista directs a coquettish smile at Maxim and bats her eyelashes at him, and he doesn't return the smile, but turns his attention to Alessia. That lovely tidbit of all the female NPCs want my hero's dick flavor of misogyny is very on brand for James. Lord knows we've seen this plenty in 50 Shades. But, who is saying this? The narrative distance is usually kept pretty close during Alessia's point of view, and this doesn't really feel like Alessia's voice, for lack of a better word. It's distracting as I sat there for a few minutes being like, do we just have a new narrator now? Because this I don't know, this doesn't sound Alessia-ish. Yet, just a few paragraphs later, we have Alessia contemplating how Maxim would arrange for her future living, internally questioning if he meant his own place or somewhere else. She'd like to ask, but it's not in her place to question a man. Now, that's more in tune with Alessia's voice. Alessia and Maxim chat for a bit. She asks what he does for a living, and he is pretty vague about it. He compliments her English, which at this point just seems inconsistent as f***. They return to the car with their deliciously overpriced paninis, and he gets her to eat. Alessia calls him a cunning wolf for it, because he knew she hadn't really eaten all day, yet that makes him the sly wolf. Yup. He then drives to the gas station, I guess a little while later. She follows, afraid of being left alone, and they go inside to pay. This shit is beyond unimportant, but I find it a culture shock more than anything. That service and petrol stations, I guess, aren't combined, and apparently there's no pay at the pump? What the f***, England, get your shit together. This is why your empire fell. And no other reason. But I think James had these two go into the convenience store just so we can have Alessia marvel at our modern-day capitalist utopia, compared to her run-down farmer's market, totally not communistic hellscape she had the misfortune to spawn from. To let us observe the prehistoric female specimen gawk as the magical money card slips seductively into the magic mystery box. Ooh! From seatbelts to credit cards. They continue after that pointless detour. Alessia reveals her grandmother was an English Bible smuggling missionary who traveled with Magda's mother, and said grandmother fell for an Albanian man and just settled there. I'm gonna have to put a pin in this because it raises some questions about her family, but we haven't really properly met Alessia's parents yet, so I don't really want to get ahead of myself. If I'm lucky, I'll just forget about it or just not care anymore. Maxim pulls up to the hideout estate, with Alessia napping beside him. He manages to squeeze in a few more creeper flags as he expresses his yearning to hoard his mysterious young beauty to himself, as well as his fondness in her not knowing exactly who the f*** he is either. He also contemplates carrying her inside or kissing her awake, but remembers that sacred chastity vow again. Chapter 10 ends with him waking her up like a normal person not intent on smashing puss. Chapter 11 is in Alessia's perspective. She sees this large, brightly lit door surrounded by darkness, and remembers the only two people who saw her leave with this man she barely knows, and is just now really contemplating the wisdom of her decision. But Alessia is so stoic and brave. She works hard to keep herself safe. That's what I hope comes across within this book. We get a description of the house when they enter. It's contemporary with a capital C. All glass with white walls and up-down lighters with some turquoise sofas mixed in with the other white furniture, so there's at least a splash of color to make the modern design seem warm and welcoming. I'm pretty sure that's just the lights Maxim dimmed that are making this sterile museum of a house look lived in, but alright. Alessia gapes at big house, and Maxim offers her food or a drink before Betty bye. She nods, and he jumps right into offering her alcohol. Yeah, dude, that's what the timid, sheltered, vulnerable woman who's in hiding from sex trafficker needs. Alcohol, to lighten her up. Yet, Alessia goes for a beer, partly in spite of her father, who'd otherwise disapprove of her drinking. Maxim grins, cause she's not like other girls who choose wine. So, he offers her a pale ale. Huh? Pussy! Oh, look at me. I'm a fancy titled noble, too masculine and cool for that girly wine. Nay, I only indulge in the palest of ales. Pinky out. We jump to Maxim's point of view for 2 whole paragraphs. He gets a thrill out of watching her sip her beer, but her mysterious novelty is already wearing off. I don't know what she expects. It's strange. We have nothing in common, and the intimacy we shared in the car seems to have vanished. Like, is he serious? These two have music in common. It may not be much, but it's a biggie for them. They were in an enclosed space shooting the about the one thing they have in common. Even then, she didn't even understand half the shit he told her because, like, he was mansplaining some musical shit or current pop shit. I don't know or remember or care to remember. But before that, she divulged a little bit of her family history. But yeah, so intimate. My panties have practically flung themselves off my body. He's then like, let me give you the grand tour of this open concept house. Proceeds to gesture all around him. Alessia notices a big white piano to match the rest of the sterile decor, and she's all giddy. Maxim points out the balcony that has a sea view. In her excitement, she rushes to the glass door and smooshes her nose against it in effort to try and glimpse that sea view in the distant darkness. Gee, she's got such an innocent sense of wonder about her. 'Twould be a shame if took a turn for the creepy. Maxim then offers to show her to her room, and she becomes visibly disappointed when he doesn't mean his bed. This young woman, who has recently experienced trauma and has a childlike curiosity, is disappointed when sexual scenarios aren't presented to her, when she thinks she's open to explore them, despite the horrific trauma she's faced recently. And with the first man who shows her hospitality. Her experiences and characterization are not congruent with her actions and how we're meant to interpret her. God, it is terrifying to read, like a whole bunch of yikes over here, folks. He seems to catch on to her thirst and says no, showing her to a bedroom. It's easier for him to push her away when she's on the chasing end than for him to just know not to be a creeper. I guarantee you 1,000% that if she showed no interest, we'd instead be reading about his gargantuan struggle to not have his passionate way with her. Alessia catches her scruffy reflection next to his and is like, "What does he see in me? I am only his cleaner." I have been asking that since the beginning. I don't know. I really don't. Maxim reassures her that even though they don't really know each other, he couldn't just leave her. She's safe with him. He won't touch her unless she wants him to. I realize he's most likely, hopefully, including platonic touches as well, but we know it's taking him every inch of willpower to not wear her like a sock. We can't trust him not to escalate physical contact. That is, unless she tries to initiate it, then he clamp a boot on his junk before we can cry double standard. He continues. Think of our time here as a holiday, a place to think, reflect, get to know each other, and get some distance from all that recent dreadful events in your life. Hey, I know you're terrified of the sex traffickers hunting you down, and you're completely isolated in a large mansion with an incredibly horny man you know absolutely nothing about, but Hakuna Matata. Maxim leaves her be, goes down to finish his beer, recap the day that I just read about for us, and affirm that he really can't, in fact, be trusted to not escalate physical contact with her. He finally accepts that he burns for her. I want her to want me too. I know I could seduce her, but right now, if she were to say yes, she'd be doing it for all the wrong reasons. Besides, I promised her that I wouldn't touch her unless she wanted me. This guy. She's gotta want it when I think it's okay for her to want it, even though I made a solemn vow not to lay a hand on her, especially given her circumstances. But hey, man, if she really wants me to touch her, who am I to deny that? That was my fuckboy translation. Now here's some actual text. When did I acquire a conscience? Deep down, I know the answer. I am hamstrung by our inequality. She has nothing. I have everything. And if I take advantage of her, what would that make me? No better than those other guys. Well, gee. And to think I racked my brain in effort to articulate why I'm so unsettled by this pairing. If only I'd have waited for a few more chapters, the culprit himself would confirm my fears for me. I guess James really did intend for that power imbalance between them after all. That's great. Let's all remember this quote for when he does inevitably rearrange her guts with his monster cock. I assume. Maxim goes back upstairs and hears Alessia crying from outside the door. He invites himself in, scoops her up in his arms, and cradles her. This guy. Not 1 page ago, he once again proclaims his flimsy vow to the gods and then promptly tosses that in the not 5 minutes later. Alessia cries herself to sleep and he tucks her in. As he gets ready for bed, telling us that he has to wear clothes to bed in this estate due to all the staff that's usually present, he assures himself that tomorrow will be a better day. He'll have Alessia all to himself. He's taken her from all she knows, and she's destitute and friendless and totally alone. Except now she has him, and he's gonna have to behave himself. This guy. Chapter 11 ends with a shrill scream to jolt Maxim up from his majestic slumber. Chapter 12 picks up with Maxim rushing to Alessia's side, who's freaking out over hating the dark. Alright, bitch, this is certainly news to me, but sure. Never mind that we're over 35% into this and have already been as close to her perspective as James will let us be, but okay, she now has hysterical fits over being left alone in the dark. Okay. Alessia reveals a new little snippet of her being smuggled in a dark, stinky truck. Of course, though, the only solution here is to have her sleep in his bed now, for her emotional safety. Yeah, that's it. Emotional safety. He'll be right there, in case she wakes up screaming again. Of course, I'd like to make her scream in a different way. This guy's sense of tact must have splattered all over the pavement right along with Kit's mangled corpse. Jesus. He's also wondering, yeah, at 23 she's never slept with a man? Not everyone's a professional genital smasher, Maxim. I'm sorry to disappoint. We get some more Alessia internalizing her gratitude to her savior. What her parents would think if they ever found out she laid with a man, yada yada yada. Alessia gets a better look at Maxim's tattoo, and it's finally revealed to be a 2-headed eagle. So instead of bullshitting half-assed tribal squiggles, I can bullshit half-assed burbs, cause I'm a serious artist. And wouldn't you believe, the 2-headed eagle is a symbol for Albania and the Trevelyan coat of arms. Coincidence or an imperialist metaphor? They go back to sleep. Maxim dreams of Alessia, and he wakes with her on top of him. He's awake, wink, and at full attention, wink. Alas, he's gotta be a good boy, but it's so hard, and her fingers be brushing against the pubes on his lower belly. The struggle. When she wakes up, they have a quaint flirty chat as if Maxim isn't propping up the entire duvet with his Godzilla penis. I assume. Like, yeah girl, I definitely dreamt of you last night, and when you almost twisted my curly cues with your fingers, oh, I had no nightmares at all, baby. To the surprise of no one, again, we learn that Alessia's a virgin. The news deflates the pitched duvet tent. See, his classy-ass dad took him to high-end brothels when he was 15, and she's so different from the one type of woman Maxim usually targets, so he's understandably caught off guard here. He musters the restraint needed to not pounce the sacrificial virgin on top of him until they get to know each other. Considering it's been less than 18 hours since his sacred chastity vow, I'm betting they're gonna fully get to know each other within the next, 12 hours? Maybe? He gets up to beat himself off in the shower. One page has him all I gotta put some distance between us. It's not fair to either of us. And a few pages later, he's all, breaking in a virgin's tough work, but someone's gotta do it. Might as well be me. This waffling isn't a cohesive downward spiral into madness or anything. His thoughts are just a floppy fish out of water with nowhere to go. Someone toss it back or put it out of its misery already, please. As if that's not enough, Alessia masturbates when she showers too, with soapy hands. Girl, no, stop, don't do that. Oh, God. She then goes on about the different social dynamics between civilized England and medieval Albania. It's mind-boggling as hell to read Alessia describe the kind of social culture she grew up with, which has got to be during the aughts, mind you. She lived in the same social environment my Eastern European grandparents did before they immigrated to the US. Unless James's Kukes is in a hyperbolic time chamber that's trapped in the 1950s, then I just don't buy it. She also concludes that it's totally safe to pounce on that dick after they spent one whole night together and she didn't wake up to him breaking fast between her legs. Yay! Alessia finishes her shower and she meets up with Maxim in the living room area space. She notices the sea view and is literally jumping from foot to foot in excitement. Can we go down to the sea? Her eyes are alive with delight as she bounces up and down like a child. The beautiful girl he fantasizes sexually pulverizing to bits is outright compared to a child. Woo! This is not helping his 23 is old enough case. Jesus. Maxim unlocks the door and she darts out into the cold balcony. He grabs a blanket, wraps it around her, and embraces her from behind. I won't touch you unless you want me to. This guy. They spend pages eating breakfast, arranging for things to be sent over, and bickering over who cleans up because how dare a man wash dishes? He uses a curt tone with Alessia, and she's shook. For a moment, Maxim sounded like her father, and she doesn't like that. So she rage pianos until Maxim promptly apologizes, and she's back to beaming when he offers to take her to the beach. Alessia is described as looking ridiculous in her oversized boots and coat, with her flushed face and hair whipping in the wind. She's frolicking along the shore with her childish abandon, with Maxim soaking in her joy. End of chapter 12. So, what did I say at the end of part 3 about things finally starting to happen? Yeah, that turned out to be a giant lie. So, to summarize these cluster of main characters again, we have a young woman who escaped sex trafficking recently and has lingering trauma that arises when the book wants to remind us she has said trauma, which the book then forgets about 30 seconds later. She still has control over her sexuality, which, okay. A character who previously lost control over her being is reassuring herself that she has control again, or desperately trying to reclaim it. And over here, we have resident DJ Pussy Thrasher who smashed cats 24/7 till one day he magically only wants to ravage one puss with his sentient cock. But, oh no, he can't, because it wouldn't be right giving her circumstances. Oh, morals. He also has to talk the inner Frollo in him off a ledge every time he so much as looks or thinks of her. In these chapters, we now get some bona fide imagery of Alessia being infantilized by Maxim. So, that's great. There are huge-ass leaps of logic being made to get their bonding development done as soon as possible. By being reminded of Alessia's recently experienced trauma for a page, or Alessia divulging another little snippet from her character bio. But let's sprinkle in some small talk of their love of music to break up the walls of exposition and shallow dread. That validates their intimacy. Now we can totally justify the copulation between the horny old wolf and timid adolescent bunny. Oh, and that I can't touch her If you thought he was already chipping away at that, join me in part 5 where Maxim takes a sledgehammer to it, then detonates it to and does a Fortnite dance on top of the rubble. It's gonna be great!
Why, hello there. So nice of you to drop by. If you'll please become utterly entranced by this crudely drawn hip swiveling, I'd like to deliver my ending spiel. Thank you all for watching. If you like what you see, and how can you not, look at these hips go. Please consider supporting me on my Patreon, where you can get 1 day early access to all upcoming videos, as well as the entire uncut audio of book reviews. You can hear me yap for almost double the amount of time. You can also vote for the next novel for me to suffer through, or enjoy. I'm at y'all's mercy after all. I can even draw sketches for you at child labor prices. Oh, I jest. Kinda. If you're unable to support me on a subscription basis via Patreon, and I totally understand, I also have a Ko-fi page tip jar for your instant generosity needs. You do you, boo. No judgment. Finally, a like and subscribe still goes a long way. I'm eternally grateful for any and all support. You may now peel your eyes away from this sexy, sexy penguin body. Remember to stay hydrated, friends, and take care.